Hi everyone, welcome back to What the FinTech, your FinTech Feel Good show. What the FinTech is a news and information platform covering the latest FinTech development in Hong Kong, Singapore, China, and Asia. Join us every week for an engaging conversation with various leaders from the FinTech industry to discuss about entrepreneurships, emerging technologies, customer engagement, and partnership. Before starting this interview, feel free to share your question in the comment sections, like and share. And today we have David from Divit. How are you?
Hi, Medhy. Thanks for having me. I'm
Very
great.
cool to have you. I'm a big fan of your application, so I'm very happy and excited to have you here.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Before we start this interview, what I like to ask all the speakers coming here is to introduce themselves a bit, where they are from,
Sure.
what they have done, and explain a bit the career.
Yeah, sure. My name is David Yu. I'm one of the two founders of Divit. My business partner, Julie, and I are both from Sydney. We met in high school, and then that's where we split apart, actually. So I followed a career in banking. I moved up to Hong Kong 12 years ago with JP Morgan. And then my business unit was sold to Bain Capital. So I went over and worked in private equity. And then about 3 years ago, Julian reached out to me and asked me about what I thought about buy now, pay later. And that's when we started to go into business together.
Okay, very cool. So you start with buy now, pay later, but your platforms today is totally different.
That's exactly right. We launched a buy now, pay later platform focused on financing airline tickets in the middle of COVID in August 21. So we had to pivot very quickly. And what we realized was we had come across something very special because we work in partnership with Cathay and
Mhm.
have access to 12 million Cathay members, giving them the ability to earn, win, and spend miles. So that's basically the foundation of our platform. And then, secondly, we linked the ability to earn and spend miles with FPS payments. And we worked out that we actually had a cool new payment platform that we could roll out to other merchants as well.
Okay. Before we deep dive into your company and the product, maybe you can share with us also how come you become an entrepreneur because you are working on a very successful path of the finance industry, banking, private equity, and now you're an entrepreneur. Did you have a turning point there?
I didn't actually have a turning point. I think the turning point was actually after I graduated from university. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I saw all my friends were making a lot more than me
Hmm.
working in finance. So I ended up joining a private equity firm in Australia. And during the financial crisis, two of the investments failed and we were replaced as manager. So I was looking for a new finance job in the middle of financial crisis and managed to get a role with JP Morgan. So I started working there doing special sits. And then after working, 100-hour weeks for the past 12, 15 years, realized that this wasn't actually what I wanted to do. And I think when I had children, I thought to myself, I want to be an example to them and really follow my passion and follow my dream. And that's why I've become an entrepreneur.
Okay, very cool. So you mentioned about the first business model of what you are doing with flight ticket and buy now pay later, and now you pivot to a fast payment system (FPS) for people living here. I think the name is pretty similar in Singapore for the fast payment system or payment fast system. I don't remember the name, but can you explain what you are doing exactly, how the application works, and how did you start to have that pivot from that buy now pay later platforms to what you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. I'll go into quite a long story actually.
Please go ahead.
It started all in one chai, right where we're at right now. But Julian, my business partner, reached out to me, and I had just left JP Morgan and gone and worked for another fintech business. And what he wanted to do was find out what it was like leaving a big corporate and then going off and joining fintech. So we caught up down at LQV, and after one bottle of wine, he said to me, "Well, I'm thinking about doing the same thing. I'm thinking about leaving insurance and going into a fintech." And he said, "What do you think about buy now, pay later? Have you heard of Afterpay?" And this was 3 years ago. Afterpay was just taking off in Australia, and so he opened a second bottle of wine. And then I said to him, "Look, just like with any finance product, there's no differentiation. I think it's a great product. I think there's a reason why younger people are gravitating towards buy now, pay later. But there's ultimately no differentiation between that and any of its competitors." And so we looked to the credit card industry and we thought, well, how do credit cards differentiate themselves? And for 60% of consumers, they pick a card based upon rewards.
Mhm.
So after our third bottle of wine, we decided that we would go pitch this idea to Cathay. and get access to 12 million Asia Miles members. So a couple of weeks later, still in Wanchai, we took the CEO of Asia Miles out to dinner and pitched him the idea that we could turn loyalty into a technology company. And one of the analogies I gave was American Airlines and American Express. Both of those companies have 115 million members. The airline is worth about $10 billion, and the credit card company is worth $115 billion, or about $1,000 per member. So I said, the strange thing is that the only reason why anyone uses an American Express card is for the rewards.
Mhm.
And the payment company which uses these rewards is worth, you know, over 10, 12 times more than what the airline is worth. So we basically pitched to Cathay, why don't you have a share of a payments company or a technology company, instead of just selling your miles to a credit card? And so they basically gave us our first chance, which was to roll out with a buy now, pay later solution. And now we've attached the ability to earn, win, and miles to FPS, as you mentioned, which is our payment solution, FPS by Divit. To demonstrate our payment solution, we created our own e commerce platform. And since then, we've started stocking brands like Moe Hennessy, Sonos, selling direct to consumer using our payment method and earning the highest reward rate in Hong Kong. And then the third arm of the business is helping companies engage with members by rewarding them directly with miles. And so companies can sign up to us, reward Divot miles, and then their customers can convert those instantly into Asia miles.
So how was the experience to go for, at the very beginning, buy now, pay later, to develop e-commerce platforms to demonstrate the capabilities of your solution and your platforms? Um,
Yeah, it was terrifying. We started this project in December 2019 with Hong Kong Express. We launched a year and a half later in August 2021, and Hong Kong was in the middle of a 3-year COVID travel restrictions. So when we launched the program, they weren't really flying. And so we had to quickly pivot our business model. And fortunately, we had a partnership with Asia Miles, which gave us the ability to earn and spend miles. And we also had great support from our banking partner to give us very low cost FPS payments. And so we thought we'd put those two things together, and put ourselves onto Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, to enable any merchant to accept our payment solution. But in order to show those merchants the power of the solution, we decided to demonstrate it ourselves. And so we actually worked with Moe Hennessy Diageo to start selling champagne, which is our top selling product at the moment.
and it's how I met you and the company. The first time I saw Divit was with that offer with the champagne there.
Oh,
But
excellent.
since that day, I saw Divit everywhere, especially on the airline companies like Hong Kong Express to buy my tickets. I see a lot of good campaign as well to have more rewards by using your platform. So can you explain a bit how was the journey from working with, like a champagne brand at the beginning to where you are right now?
I think the key thing is that if you think about which companies in the world have the best customer base, airlines are really uniquely positioned. Every sort of mass affluent customer in Hong Kong is a Cathay member. And the same thing could be said with KrisFlyer down in Singapore or with British Airways in the UK. And so when we reach out to companies and ask them, do you want to increase business with 12 million frequent flyers? The answer is always yes. And so what we've built is just the ability for companies to interact with the membership base in a easy and customer friendly way. So that's why we have multiple platforms. We've got the e-commerce platform, we've got the payment solution that can be integrated into checkouts, and then we have a purely rewards platform as well, which can be integrated with anyone's loyalty program so that they can convert their rewards into miles as well.
In terms of data point, or maybe in terms of statistic, what is important for you? Is it the usage, the number of calls per month, maybe the number of like transactions you can have?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, we're trying to grow our membership base. Our aim is to become, the biggest loyalty customer base in the world by aggregating multiple airlines together. So I guess membership number is going to be our number one driver. And in order to do that, we need to give away a lot of miles. And so in Chinese New Year this year, we gave away 88,888 miles. Our offer went out to 2 million cafe members locally in Hong Kong. And what I'm most excited about is actually giving away more miles this year. And I think ultimately, if we can give away miles, give people the free holiday and the dream vacation that they need, um, that's ultimately how we're going to be successful. And that's how we'll drive the customer base and the usage, is when we can give away the reward that people want most.
Okay, okay. How do you grow your customer base today? Is it by marketing? Is it by word of mouth? Is it by network?
Yeah, I think we came up with a really unique partnership model with Cathay. They have the customer base already, and so for us, it's how do we engage that customer to give them the things that they want. And so, we were very fortunate over Chinese New Year. We were able to do an email campaign out to 12 million members, which went very well. And we're about to launch mobile games
Mhm.
where people can play to fly, earn and win miles by playing our mobile games. And we're doing that in partnership with airlines.
Okay. Is it possible for you to elaborate a bit more on this part?
Yeah, sure. It was quite fortunate. We were at a Cyberport event and met this young lady who was in Web3 gaming. And she basically told us about hyper casual mobile games and how they were trying to get people to play by rewarding them with NFTs. And I said, well, what if we white labeled these games? How long would it take? Could we actually pitch it to an airline and say, you can get customer engagement 24/7, 365 days a year, not just when people are flying, but when they're sitting on the MTR, when they're waiting for their bus, they can be playing games and seeing branded content. And so that's how the idea came about.
Okay, very interesting. And I think right now all the companies are looking at how they can do, online and offline traffic and engagement, banks, but also like all corporate with Web3 and the metaverse application. So if you are already there, it's a big step for you.
Yeah, I was stunned by the statistics. 1 in 4 adults are playing hyper casual mobile games, and on average, around 20 minutes a day. So in my mind, it's a new and exciting media platform, and there's a great opportunity to white label these games. And ultimately, it comes down to, well, how do you get people to play your game versus another? And what we realized is most of these games kind of have 16 different styles, and the success of it is it really comes down to, can you reward, can you engage customers, and we think that we can do that with miles in a way that hasn't really been done before.
In terms of business model, how did you create yours and how do you develop your business model right now?
Yeah, so business model, we have three main streams. So number one was the payment solution, which is FPS by Divit. The unique characteristic on that payment solution is people can earn and spend miles. The number of miles that they earn is completely up to the merchant. So we have some merchants who will be higher margin business, say in luxury furniture, who are more willing to offer a lot of miles. And then we have food merchants who have tight margins and they offer less miles rewards. But we basically empower the merchant to decide how much to reward. And that's quite different to a credit card, where typically the earn rate is determined by the card issuer as opposed to the merchant. But at the end of the day, it's the merchant who's paying for it.
Mhm.
So that's number one, our FPS by Divot payment solution. And we charge probably the lowest rate for a payment gateway in Hong Kong, passing on the cost savings of accepting FPS instead of credit cards directly to the merchants. Number two is our own e-commerce platform, as I mentioned. So we partner with consumer brands who want to sell to a premium sort of affluent customer base. And the way we differentiate our shop is we don't have to differentiate on price. We offer the highest reward rate in Hong Kong, 1 mile for every 2 HK dollars spent, which means we don't need to discount prices. And the great thing for premium and luxury companies is that it's a real differentiator, because at the moment, most of the e-commerce platforms are ones which are price discounters. And then the third stream is working with other loyalty companies, say insurance companies, and converting their rewards directly into miles.
Which stream is the easiest for you? Is it directly how you reach out to the customers, or maybe by developing your network with merchants or working with large institutions?
I think working with large institutions is something that we're comfortable with. Both Julian and I come from large financial institutions. We're used to working in such an environment, and we're really excited about that. And so, what we build for them, we end up scaling down and letting SMEs use exactly the same tools. So, with our rewards platform, for instance, we're building an integration with an insurance company to reward their policyholders directly with miles. But at the same time, you could be an SME, sign up to our online platform, buy and reward miles instantly as well. So we're comfortable working with large corporates. We understand how they work. But at the same time, we're also building tools for any business to access this amazing customer base that we've got access to.
Um, in terms of statistics, for example, what is your growth month by month, or like every 2 or 3 months? Do you have like by thousand new customers every
Yeah, we're
week?
growing our membership base by about 1.5 times per month.
Okay, very interesting. Oh, okay. And this is just based on the campaign you have done previously.
Correct. So this is based from around August to February this year. And then our transaction volumes have been growing around 1.5 to 2 times per month
Oh,
as
it's
well.
pretty impressive. A lot of company would like to have this kind of
Off a
growth.
very low base, but
Um, there is a couple of companies doing loyalty programs, reward redemptions, or like cashbacks. Understand pretty well your business model here and how you interact with others. But how could you explain the difference between you and others?
yeah, absolutely. Great question. We think fundamentally there's two different types of customers. So if you look at credit cards, for instance, there's always the cash rewards customers, and then there's customers who are looking for miles. And it's really a different segment of the population. And what we're targeted is at the sort of mass affluent and affluent consumers who are looking for miles so that they can upgrade themselves and fly business or first class. And that's really our core customer base. So if you look at our e-commerce platform, the average transaction size is around 5,000 Hong Kong dollars.
That's pretty good.
And with each one of those transactions, they're earning 2,500 miles. So it is a very different customer base. I think the other thing that's really unique about miles is that the perceived value of miles is double or triple what the actual cost is. And so that gives a huge marketing benefit to merchants and to business partners who use our reward platform. And that's why Miles are so successful at selling credit cards. Because when a bank rewards customers with miles, they're getting 2 or 3 times the marketing benefit because customers compare the reward to the retail price of the ticket, whereas the cost of actually delivering that free seat is actually the marginal cost for the airline, which is significantly lower. And so that's where the magic comes from using miles instead of using a cash reward.
You're also B2C because you have an app reaching directly to any customers here. When you develop your features or you enhance your application, how do you do it? Do you do it by testing? Do you contact a group of users, or do you do it based on some feedbacks you receive?
Uh, Look, at the moment, it is trial and error.
Okay.
So we create it, we launch it, we test how it goes, and we repeat. So there's nothing that formulaic about it. We have very robust discussions within the team, and then we let it out into the wild. So it's really test and learn.
So, based on this comment you just made right now, did you learn the hard way? Do you have some failure you can share with us and figure out how to operate?
Yeah, I think from an app basis, we haven't had too many big failures, but certainly have had a lot of failures in life and failures in our career. To know that those failures are temporary, and to not really be afraid of making those mistakes, but to make sure that you learn from it and you get the right feedback. So that's definitely something that we're implementing and making sure that we continually get customer feedback so that we can improve our service.
When you face some not failure but difficulties, what is the motivation keeping you going and continue to improve your platform, the solution, your product?
Yeah, so I had a successful career in finance, and my wife really gave me the opportunity to quit mid career and go invest a lot of our own money into a startup. And I've also have family and friends who have invested in our business as well. So it's got to a stage where I can't let those people down, and so that's definitely the motivation. And I think as an entrepreneur, you build up a tough skin, and even though you might have some failures, like launching a travel financing business in the middle of COVID, that you can bounce back from it with the support of family and friends, and with the confidence that it's the right business model and it will work as soon as travel restrictions are lifted, which thankfully they are. And so, our business has certainly turned around since last October.
Congratulations for this. The first time I really speak with you was at the FinTech Week, and just before during this interview, you spoke about partnership with insurance. So, how is it for you to collaborate with traditional financing platforms,
Yeah,
banks or insurance, and how do you help them to develop new solutions?
we love collaborating with financial institutions. Julian, my business partner, was a project manager doing digital projects for a number of different insurance companies in Hong Kong, in Australia, and around the world. And, obviously, I come from a big bank as well. So, collaborating with these organizations, we find incredibly exciting. A lot of the people that we speak to, they're members of Cathay themselves, obviously, and they see the power of earning miles and being able to spend miles. And so it's an exciting thing to actually pitch to large corporates. And for us, that's kind of our background. So we're comfortable working with large corporates. We're comfortable working within their restraints, their approval processes, their security requirements, their IT requirements. It's something that we've done for the past 20 years.
How you support them to rethink their product and their reach to their customers?
Yeah, I think one of the lessons that I had learnt in my career is to make sure that you get buy-in from the top down.
Oh yeah,
And thankfully, we have an amazing advisory board. We've got a magnificent chairman who's just joined Divit as well. And we do get access to C-level executives. And, for us, that's how we get the buy-in. And more often than not, they're also people who want to be flying business class for leisure as well. So we're selling a product that they understand very well, being frequent flyers themselves, and we're speaking to the right people, so we get buy-in from the top down.
from your experience on buy now pay later and now with the FPS and the payment directly with Divit, do you see any new trends coming on the market that we didn't see before, and you are maybe one of the first actors to see it?
Look, I think what's an interesting market is actually in Australia once they put in caps on interchange fees, and you saw customer behavior, payment choice change significantly. So the number of credit card transactions declined, and the number of debit transactions increased significantly. And it all just comes down to rewards at the end of the day. The interchange fees were what funded credit card rewards. And you saw in the UK, you've seen in Europe when those caps come in place, that credit card usage declines. In the longer term, what I think is everyone is going to be paying with their mobile phone. And whether that mobile phone payment is backed by a card, a digital wallet, or a bank account, it doesn't really matter. The interface is going to be mobile. What we've done is basically linked mobile payments to bank via FPS, and we think that is the future because ultimately the merchants save an incredible amount of money. Somewhere between 2 to 3% per transaction. When you're looking at a business which might be making a 10% profit margin, saving 2 to 3% is a 20 or 30% profit improvement if they can get people to pay with a bank transfer instead of instead of credit card. So we think it's going to be merchant driven, which is why a lot of our business is making things easy for merchants. It's giving them the tools to reward customers, giving them the tools to accept miles as payment. Um, and we think that's basically going to drive payments. Is merchants will be pushing people to pay with bank transfers and cheaper payment methods rather than credit card.
Um, So my next question, because you spoke about credit cards now, it's do you think like credit card will still be prevalent here, and still people will still use it, or we are
Yeah,
going for alternative solutions?
yeah, I don't think things are going to change very quickly. I think they'll change over time. And I think also if you look at demographics, if people have been using credit cards for 20 years, they're more than likely to continue use credit cards for 20, 30 years. But I do think with the younger generations, the usage of credit cards is declining. And ultimately, if there is regulation change around interchange fees, then that could have a very quick impact, like you've seen in Australia and the UK.
Um, in terms of teams, are you all based here in Hong Kong? Do you have a team internationally based, for example, like working remotely?
Yes, so we're all based in Hong Kong, except my wife had to transfer down to Singapore for work, and so I work remotely in Singapore and come up once a month.
In terms of team composition, it's mostly tech teams, sales, operations. How do you like? Do you have like any profile in your companies right now?
Yeah, we are a tiny company, and so sales is done by the founders. We have local tech talent, local designers, and our own in-house finance team.
Are you still hiring right now, and are you looking for some profile?
Yeah, we're always looking for good people, and the profile doesn't really matter so much. I think ultimately, we're looking for people who want to challenge and looking to do something exciting. I think whether you join a startup or a finance company or a growth stage company, it really is for different personality types, and so we're looking for people who want to be part of a young startup.
And a great team, I imagine. So, what makes a great team for you?
I think a great team is all about diversity. I mean, if I think just about myself and Julian, we're actually very different people, but it works well that way because we complement each other. And I think the rest of our team is exactly the same way. We make sure that there is healthy debate, and we want to hear everyone's different points of views. So, ultimately, I think what makes a good team is that everyone's actually different, and they all add something that makes something um, bigger than the sum of the parts.
We spoke about a lot of things during this interview: the present, the past, a bit of the future. But what's next for you? Is it a new campaign? Is it a new product? You spoke about the video games a bit, but do you have other plans as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the games are super exciting. We're going to be demonstrating that at the Asian Aviation Festival down in Singapore at the end of the month.
Oh, great.
And hopefully, we'll be signing up some new airline partners so that we can extend Divit miles to be able to convert it not just into Asia miles, but into other airline programs as well.
Very exciting, very exciting. Where people can know more about the platform, the solution, and is the platforms available not only in Hong Kong but in other markets?
Yeah, it's only available in Hong Kong now. And so our e-commerce site is shop.divit.com.hk. We'll provide you with a link that you can access below,
Mhm.
and that link will give customers on their first purchase 1 mile for every $1 Hong Kong spent, which is definitely the highest reward rate in the world, just for your listeners.
Thank
And
you
then
very
our
much.
our corporate website as well, which is divit.com.hk.
I have a couple of questions about you before we conclude this interview, but do you know any like podcasts related to your field or blogs that you are looking for, but you can share with everyone here?
Yeah, so I listen to a podcast called Let's Talk Loyalty, and I listen to that religiously, which is fantastic. And then aside from that, I love Prof G as well.
Where people can learn more about you as a person?
Oh, just follow me on LinkedIn. Reach out. I'm more than happy to add you and have a conversation. I've done the same. So, a lot of the network that I have was through blind LinkedIn stalking. Even the CEO of TripAdvisor, I added and after listening to a podcast. So I hope everyone does the same
And about the company,
about the company.
like where people can learn more about the
Oh,
company.
yeah, at divot.com.hk or
Oh,
shop.divot.com.hk.
okay, see the same website.
Yeah.
Um, any course that people can sign up to know more about you, or even they can meet you soon?
We'll be at the Aviation Festival Asia in Singapore at the end of the month, but just reached out on LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for your time today. It was great to see you,
Thanks
and
very much,
very
Medhy.
happy to have you here.
glad to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you very much.